Everyone talks about aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Those three get all the attention. But there are settings sitting in your camera menu right now that are either quietly helping your photos or quietly working against them. And most photographers never touch them. They figure out manual mode, but they leave everything else alone. And I get it, the menu is genuinely a lot, but I'm gonna walk you through 8 specific settings that actually matter for natural light photography. Whether you shoot Canon, Sony, Nikon, weddings, or portraits, anything really. And we're gonna start with the 2 that are probably set wrong in your camera right now. Then I'll give you the 6 that I have locked in before every single shoot. So let's start with the ones that are already in your camera and already costing you shots. Most photographers get into manual mode and stop there, but everything else stays on whatever the camera was shipped with. And your camera shipped with settings designed for average shooting situations. But natural light photography isn't average. Here are 2 settings that are probably on right now and doing things you didn't ask them to do. Number 1 is called Auto Lighting Optimizer in Canon. On Nikon, it's Active D-Lighting, and on Sony, it's Dynamic Range Optimizer. This setting tries to automatically brighten your shadows and recover your highlights. And that sounds helpful, but it's not. When you're shooting in manual mode, you're making deliberate exposure decisions, but this setting looks at those decisions and overrides them. If you want your shadows dark, your camera's gonna brighten them anyway, so turn this setting off. How to find this in a Canon is to go to your shooting menu, find Auto Lighting Optimizer, and disable it. And for Nikon, go to your shooting menu and look for Active D-Lighting and turn it off. And for Sony cameras, go to your camera settings, look for Dynamic Range Optimizer and turn it off. That's number 1. Number 2 is probably one you've never thought about, and it's changing what you see on the back of your camera every time you shoot. Number 2 is Picture Style on Canon, Picture Control on Nikon, and Creative Style or Picture Profile on Sony. Most cameras ship with this set to standard, but standard pumps up the saturation and the contrast in your camera. So what you see on the back of your camera, that's not exactly what you captured. It's the camera's version of it with the contrast turned up. So switch this to neutral or faithful in Canon, and on Nikon, you'll look for neutral or flat, and on Sony, it's neutral or clear. Look for whichever option adds the least amount of saturation and contrast. That's the thing you're looking for. And it's worth noting here too, that oftentimes you can find all these settings in 2 different places, oftentimes in the menu of your camera, as well as the back menu of your camera that you can change while you're shooting. So those are the 2 settings that were working against you. Now let's go through the 6 that I set before I ever pick up my camera to shoot. And before we get into those, if you didn't know about either of those 2 settings, help me out and hit the like button. It tells YouTube to put this in front of more photographers who need it. Okay, here's my actual full setup. Write these down or screenshot this if you need to. But a quick note first, not every camera will have all of these. If you're on an entry-level model and you can't find one, just skip it and move on to the next one. Set the ones you have and you'll still be way ahead of where you started. Number 3, set a specific white balance. Don't leave it on auto. Auto white balance can shift color from frame to frame, as you well know. You can shoot a whole session and have slightly different colors across all of your images, and it's really annoying to deal with it later. So I set mine to 5200K, and that's roughly the color of daylight. I find that it holds up really well across most natural light situations, like outdoor sun, partially cloudy, or even soft window light indoors. But if you move into deep shade for a while, adjust that number. But pick a specific number and then look at your test shots, but never leave it on auto. So that's 3, but number 4 is the one that gives you the most flexibility when your exposure isn't perfect. And number 4 is shooting in RAW. RAW keeps everything that your sensor captured. So if your white balance is slightly off or your exposure isn't exactly perfect, you have room to fix it. And since RAW does require processing before you can share it or print these files, you can set it to RAW and JPEG. And this is fine if you want a smaller file that you can preview a little more easily. Just know that it takes up more space on your memory card to do it this way, and when you import them onto your computer, you'll probably want to separate the 2 file types. So that's 4 down and we are halfway there. And number 5 is worth knowing about just so you can make sure you're not accidentally on the wrong one. Number 5, find your metering mode and make sure it's set to evaluative on Canon, matrix on Nikon, or multi on Sony. This tells your camera how to read the scene when you're setting your exposure. Evaluative mode reads the whole frame, and for natural light, that's what you want. So it's worth knowing where this setting lives in your menu so you're not accidentally on spot metering without realizing it. 5 down and 3 to go. And the last 3 are about your autofocus. And this is where a lot of photographers are doing extra work that they don't need to be doing. Number 6, use all of your autofocus points that you have available and set it so that you can move the active point yourself. Don't lock to the center point and recompose, because at wide apertures, when you focus on the center and then shift your frame, you're shifting your focus plane. And what you focused on to begin begin with may no longer be sharp. And it sounds like a small thing, but it can cost you shots you don't want to miss. So move your focus point to wherever your subject is, because that's what all the points are for. So that's 6. Number 7 is one that you'll actually have to think about mid-shoot. So pay attention here. Number 7 is your autofocus mode. And this one you do switch depending on the situation you're shooting in. Set this mode to single AF or autofocus. This is called one shot on Canon, AFS on Sony and Nikon. The camera locks focus when you half press your shutter button. But continuous mode, which is AI servo on Canon or AFC on Nikon and Sony, is used for moving subjects. So the camera actually tracks them as they move. My default is set to single because most of the time my subjects are sitting or standing still. But I switch to continuous when I have kids or anything unpredictable in my frame. So know where that switch is before you start shooting, not mid-session when you're already chasing the moment. And number 8 is the one that changes everything about how you focus. It takes about 5 minutes to set up. Number 8 is back button focus. Normally your camera focuses when you half press the shutter button, but back button focus moves that to a separate button on the back of your camera, usually labeled AF on. Your shutter button just fires the shot, and your focus button just focuses. So you can lock onto your subject and recompose without the camera hunting for a new focus point. If you've never set this up, look up how to do it on your specific camera model. It takes about 5 minutes, and you'll never go back to the way you were doing it before. That's all 8. Go into your menu right now and start with number 1. It takes 10 minutes, and you only have to do it once. And if you want my starting point for the manual mode settings to go with these, aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and what I reach for first depending on the situation, I put all 3 into a free PDF called Shoot Like a Pro. The link is in the description. And one more thing before you go. Have you ever lost a shot because the setting was just wrong and you didn't realize it until you got home? Tell me what happened in the comments. I want to know.